My first trip to this factory was in the early 2000s, and I was in the glass supply business with my father. We had a company called Seattle Batch Company. Through a shop that I'd worked at in Seattle that made lighting ware, I happened to meet Michael Christman, who owned this factory, and the company called Southwestern Glass.
One thing I thought pretty quickly was that there were a lot of glass artists around the country that were smaller and produced more highly decorative art glass. And I thought, I would like to take some of those concepts that our employees didn't know much about, and bring those techniques here. So I searched out who were some of the very well-renowned glass artists, and that's where I met John Kiley. And I brought John here to Fort Smith and showed him what I wanted to teach a lot of my glass blowers, and he did. My glass blowers were very receptive to learn these new techniques. It was a really worthwhile endeavor over a few years. Unfortunately, that's when a spike in natural gas prices hurt us dramatically. My natural gas bill increased by over 400% in about a year and a half. So that's when, in the beginning of 2003, I had to close the doors on Southwestern Glass. When I walk through these buildings now, a lot of feelings well up. We employed about 165 people, and we produced right around 3,300 pieces of glass every day out of 5-ton tanks.
It's cathartic, in a way. There's no choice but to let go of something that once was and to become something different.
I miss a lot of things about the glass business. This part of the plant was built in 1919. You can see it's very old, but it's meant to be built as a glass plant. It's meant to be open. The doors are louvered, so there's good ventilation, good heat dispersion, and it was a pretty good place to work, other than working in front of the tanks.
Walking through this old factory by yourself, you can hear the sounds of the wind rattling the loose sheet metal. And up in the ceiling is a series of louvered panels. You can hear those opening and closing, and the doors slamming. You can smell the exposed earth. There's open mold pits that are filled with water. Sunlight pokes through cracks in the ceiling and in the walls and illuminates bits of the dust.
Just being in this space is pretty cool. Buildings that are abandoned always have a sense of mystery about them. There's what was it in its moment? And then you're seeing it at the end of its life. I can have an appreciation for this space.
Conceptually, the idea of using the found material on site to transform this new material is important. The remnants and the mother material from this place is going to come in contact with the finished optic blocks.
All right.
John, he came to me one day and said, "Hey, Sarah, I want to do something a little different. I'd like to show a new body of work alongside this older body of work." And I said, okay, well, that sounds interesting. What's the new body of work? He's presented this idea of doing these broken blocks of glass. I hadn't seen them yet. So went over to the studio and saw them in person, and I thought to myself, these are some of the most incredible new works. I'd never seen anybody push the medium in that direction, and I was just thrilled with the idea of doing these shows concurrent with each other. A month or two planning went by, and John suggested the idea of just doing these broken pieces. And I thought, you know what? I think it's the right thing to do. Let's do it.
So my first time back was this past November. And when I got here, it was a little bit shocking. I was amazed by the energy that the place still has. There's ghosts here. The energy of what happened here and what was made here is palpable. And at that moment, I knew I had to come back and do a Fractograph project here.
I think it's great, and the fact that he's being able to draw from this environment and tie that into his work. This is not conventional. You know, this is, like I say, he's found this in a corner somewhere way over there.
Sometimes you know you just have to do something, that you're supposed to do something. And here I am. The thermal shock causes the glass to rapidly expand in one small location, and the energy from that makes the piece explode. It's an indelible and irreproducible moment of time and energy and place. So each one of these blocks that we're making here is an actual record of this place. Glass breaks in an instant. Cracks travel through borosilicate glass between 9 and 11,000 miles per hour. So that moment is printed in 3 dimensions through that material.
I kind of have been wondering lately how someone who hasn't been in the room when the process is happening, how they actually kind of relate to the work. Because for me, being in the room or being in the factory when we're, breaking the glass or exploding the glass, to me that's such a significant part of the work. It's very physical, I can feel it in my chest, and John and I are kind of looking at each other, there's a lot of tension there and waiting. And then usually after the fact, after they break and we're kind of assessing what's going on, there's sort of this calm after the storm sort of feeling. Can they see what really happened? Can they sort of feel that energy that was happening? Those are things I think about.
These pieces are also very much a record of a moment in time. And so to be present, to see where these pieces were made and what that story is, seemed especially important. I really wanted to be present and understand the full scope of the work that was being done there.
The fractographs have at least brought a new life to this old dilapidated building.
You know, these broken pieces are about finding beauty in something that is broken, that is changed. And that the broken thing isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's just something different.
Like I said, this is going to be the last piece of glass that's ever going to be produced in this factory after almost 100 years. It's pretty spectacular.
And John didn't say this explicitly, but the connection that I started to draw while I was there with him was that, you know, similarly, he's seen this huge shift in his connection with glass. And, you know, no pun intended, but to sort of break with the traditional and move away from it. And there's a large sort of emotional piece of that I think comes through with this work. You're not making your life easy with that.
No, not making my life easy, but life's not supposed to be easy.
Nope. That's for sure. Nope. That's exactly right.
Just the energy.
Yep.
It's not just sadness. There's a positivity to it as well. This metamorphosis from the solid block to what it is now and going through the reconstruction, it's gonna live on here, right? In this block. And it's gonna be really strange walking out of here tonight, knowing that it's gonna change. It's gonna be gone. So, you know, one wants to look around and soak it up. That's it, everything changes.
Yes.